Requirements. What are requirements? Well, requirements are essentials, what is necessary, what you cannot do without. For example, any one of you remember when you got the driver's permit and license and so on? What was required? Well, you had to do the test and you had to do the driver's practice and get it done. And then you also need to have a required age, and then you can get your license. So requirement for the license is spelled out. What are other requirements? Well, to graduate from high school or from college, you have specific credits and classes and courses you have to have covered, and that kind of fulfills the requirements so you can graduate and get your degree and so on. There are other requirements, like to become a nurse, a registered nurse, lots of requirements and training, or to drive a truck, a big 18-wheeler, you need a certified driver's license, or to drive a school bus, or we can add different situations where we have different requirements. And so requirements are essentials, are the basics, what is really necessary. So when the prophet Micah says, what does God require? We can hear already, these are essentials. These are not kind of negligible or not so important or on the periphery of who we are meant to be. So, and why is this passage so important? When we went with our confirmation group to the temple, the synagogue, Temple Bethel in Sunbury, you walk in and on the left side, you see two scripture passages. One is about praising and glorifying God and loving your neighbor as yourself. These are core tenets. And on the right side, guess what is inscribed on the right side as one of the most important parts of our Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament? This passage, for everyone who walks in to see it, and to behold it and recognize how important it is. So, not on the side, but important, necessary. What does the Lord require of you? To do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with God. Can you repeat that after me? What does God require of us? To do justice, to love kindness, to walk humbly with God. The essence of our faith. How do you define justice, or how do you define righteousness when it comes up in the Bible? Righteousness is the total opposite of self-righteousness. We often hear the word self-righteous. Well, righteous is very different. Righteous means you do the right thing. And usually we know what doing the right thing is. We do know, don't we? And justice means you right the wrong. So you make good what you failed, or you right the wrong, make it better as it was. And in the Bible, especially in the Old Testament, both words, doing the right thing and justice, are connected with 9 words. And listen to these words. Whenever justice comes up in the Bible, in the Old Testament, these 9 words are connected with justice. Widow, orphan, poor, hungry, stranger, needy, fatherless, weak, and oppressed. So who are these people for whom God looks out and whom God calls us to look out for, to make wrongs or their suffering less for us to step in and to help them. Well, they're the people who are struggling, people who are down on their luck, the people who are hurting, who are vulnerable, who are at the end of their rope, who do not know what else to do. Justice means, in the Bible, in the Old Testament, and from Jesus' perspective, doing the right thing and standing, being with those who are hurting and making it right for them, lifting them up. And that's what Jesus calls us to do. And that's at the core of who Jesus is. His first action after he's called, he goes in the synagogue and he receives the scroll of Isaiah as depicted, as described in the Gospel of Luke in the 4th chapter, and he opens up and he describes that the messenger of God is about to free the oppressed, to heal the brokenhearted, to lift up those who are down, to comfort the grieving, to provide sight for the blind, and to set the oppressed free. And Jesus says, today this word is fulfilled. Each and every one of us is called to do that very same thing. What does justice, doing justice and doing the right thing today mean for us? You have all watched the news. You have seen what took place in Minneapolis. It's hard for me to grapple with it and to get it. You have seen it. What does justice mean in that situation? What does dignity for all human beings mean? What does fairness mean? We know what the right thing is. We recognize when lines and boundaries are crossed. We know it in our bones when someone is treated unfairly or shot when they're disabled. We know it's not right. So what do we do with that? How does that find expression in what we stand for, stand up for, and support? Second thing, kindness. Well, we know what kindness is, don't we? Being compassionate, walking in someone else's shoes, lifting them up and smiling, just being open and caring and welcoming them, just as if it would be your best friend. And walking humbly. Walking humbly is when Jesus takes a child and places it in the middle of the grown-ups, and when he says, become like a child. Now, not become a baby or childish or acting out, it says childlike. And why? Because we're meant to be trusting and open. There is something about an innocent and seeing the world with God's eye and being receptive for that. And that, being childlike and being humble, that is what the Beatitudes, which you just heard, express. I really do not like the Beatitudes. You know why? Because I don't want to be the one who is grieving, who is struggling, who is at the end of the rope. It just doesn't feel right. I don't want to be in those situations. But Jesus invites us to make room and express when we're there, when we're grieving, to express that grief and to feel it. And healing comes only when we do express it in the comfort, when we feel brokenhearted, don't run from it, but face it. When we work for peace, sometimes I feel like it's so much easier when someone is wrapped up in something, just run, let them do, than stepping up and saying what is right and stepping in between or stopping someone when they are telling a joke at the expense of other people. I was deeply touched by the pastors who all flew into Minneapolis and knelt down in protest of the actions, and they were carried away. Non-violent protest, the force of our souls. What are you and I, what are we called to? What are the essential requirements of our faith? What does the Lord require of you? To do justice, to love kindness, to walk humbly with your God. Let's do that one more time together. What does the Lord require of you? To do justice, to love kindness, to walk humbly with your God. How will you do that?